So good morning, everybody. I hope you had time between the Chancellor's presentation and now to get a snack, stretch your legs, do what you need to do. My name is Inker Stark, if you don't know, and I'm the district level coordinator, professional development coordinator. One of my jobs is to organize the events for today. And I want to welcome you if this is your first session. Good morning. And let me do a few logistics before we actually start. So this webinar has multiple ways for you to ask questions and engage with the panelists. The best way, if you want a question answered or addressed, is to use the Q&A. The Q&A is set up so that all the questions posted there are visible to everyone. And people, you can go there and do like a little thumbs up if there's a question that you think is super important and meaningful. There's no way we'll be able to get to all of them because I have a series of questions that I want to start with the panelists. So Mark, you help me. We'll kind of go back and forth from the Q&A and follow the format that I've set up. The chat is a great way to just be collegial and chat with your comrades and things like that. Laura, good morning, Laura. I want to make
and Inger, I just want to, Jennifer's out there and she needs to be moved over as a panelist.
Yes, and then also, Mark, I believe that we have our interpreters will be in this session again, Lisa and Jenny. So when you see them, if you're willing to make them panelists as well, that would be wonderful.
I don't see them yet.
Okay, great. All right. I want to make sure close.
And Denise also needs to be moved over.
Oh, wow. I am just really not an expert at this. Oh,
Got
and
it.
then Mark, I think you're the host. You'll want to turn the captioning on.
Thank you. Captioning
Okay,
is
our full panel is here. Again, I want to say welcome to the second part of Flex Day. And this will be kind of a semi-structured conversation with some of our experts and leads in the district. And what I'd like to do is let each of the panelists introduce themselves. I believe in full transparency. You may say, how did Tina Vasconcelos, who's the Vice President of College of Alameda, and Vice President Denise Richardson from Merit come on board? I'm going to be really—
Hold on. Sorry, our interpreters aren't in yet. So we need to move them over so that they can be doing their thing. So Jenny needs to be moved over into the—
And Lisa Washington.
and I'm doing that now.
There we go.
All
There's
right,
Jenny.
I think we've got the tech things going. And I think our interpreters need to be made co-hosts.
It takes a village, people. It really does. Okay. So as I was saying, the people who were chosen to be panelists today, the decisions were mine and mine alone. I invited them because I felt they each offer a unique perspective. You might say, why did Vice President Vasconcelos get to come from College of Alameda and Vice President Richardson from Merit? The truth is, I realized late that it would be really wonderful to have people who are actually working on the college campuses, addressing the issues. And I happen to have both Denise and Tina's cell phone numbers in my phone. And I texted them and said, please, 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 will you join the panel? And they said yes. So the bias is mine because I know them, not because COA and Merit are in any way more important. And they've promised to be vice presidential and not only college advocates. So what I'd like to do is let each of you introduce yourself, be pretty brief. And in the roundtable structure that I sent you, I said that I would like you to introduce yourself, just a tiny bit about your position within the district for anyone who doesn't know you, and identify one priority, just one. I know everyone's going to have a lot, but just one priority that you think is a really big and essential or will be component for you at your level of leadership in the district this year. And how about if we start with you, Stephanie Droker, Dr. Droker, our interim Deputy Chancellor.
Thank you so much, Inger. It's been so great getting to know everyone here. But for those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Stephanie. Everyone calls me Steph. And I originally came through the community college system. I was a student and a faculty member and an academic senate president and a curriculum rep and a negotiations rep, and moved my way into administration. I was a vice president of instruction. And then I moved over to the commission at the ACCJC, where I was a vice president, a senior vice president, and then the president of the commission until I came over here to work with everyone at Peralta. And it's just been fabulous. I think for me, I've been working with Peralta for the last 4 years at the commission. And then when I came over here, I really fell in love with Peralta and the colleges and the faculty and staff. And so I wanted to come help. So that's why I'm here. There was an interim position open, and I thought maybe my experience would benefit the colleges and the district as we move forward in accreditation and coming off of probation and now on warning and being fully reaffirmed. So that's right, Laura says, what's not to love about Peralta? We're lovable, and you absolutely are. And so I guess my priority, I have a personal professional priority, and then of course I have the professional work. And then so my personal professional priority is that, because they blend, right, is based on the Hebrew tikkun olam, and that means to make a better place. And so make it better than when you found it. And so anyway, I am always looking to be solutions driven and to help solve problems. But to do that, I have to listen. And so I've been really working on listening and learning so that I can really understand the Peralta culture. And ultimately that will lead into 2 things. One is we have to address our student enrollment, our access and completion. And the other one, of course, is accreditation, because we have to be fully reaffirmed. So I had 2 priorities all rolled together, Inger, so I already broke the rules.
As teachers always do. Thank you. And for those of you who are here, if you would like to actually meet Stephanie in person, I have convinced her to join us this evening at Mad Oak. So come by and say hello.
I begged. I think I'm crashing it.
No. There is a possibility that Tina Vasconcelos may have to leave our table a little early, our round table. So Tina, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Inger. So yes, she begged and pleaded, and so here I am. And I'm actually happy to be here this morning with everybody. So who I am, my name is Tina Vasconcelos. I'm Vice President of Student Services at College of Alameda. As Inger mentioned, I am one of the 2 administrators that has worked at all 4 colleges in our district. I started off as faculty. I'm tenured faculty in the district, served dean as instruction, dean of student services, which changed to academic and student affairs, and had both instruction and student affairs at Laney. Then became dean of instruction at Merritt and with Division I, and had career education and also general education as well when I was there. And now I'm serving as vice president of student services at College of Alameda. So this was really hard. So one priority is really hard for me because we have so much going on all the time, and I'm not going to do what Stephanie did. I'm sticking with one. So for me, one of the things that comes to mind is our Ed Master Plan this year. So that is a huge priority for us. It's been a priority, I've led 2 master plans. I'm looking at the participants list, like I've worked with so many of you all. At Laney, I led the EMP process at Laney when Elnora Webb was president there. I also led the process up at Merritt with folks that are in this room today when Norma Umbry-Galaviz was president up there. So that's been in my mind and sort of rolling around, how do we do it differently? How do we do it better? How do we do it so that it's a more inclusive and robust process? I'm excited that we have WestEd on board as the consultant this year to partner with. I have another project that I'm working with them on, which is a human design centered project looking at student engagement and equity. And so infusing that work into the EMP at COA is very exciting to me, and also infusing it into the equity plan. But so I think that's one of my biggest priorities, is how do I, from my seat at the college, really help to mobilize the campus community into involvement around this. You know, it's our EMPs should be our guide for the next few years, right? And the only way that it's successful for me is having really broad discussions and really voices from across the entire campus. And I mean, we've been successful in doing that previously. I really want to make sure that, and I haven't done that, this is new for me doing it with the COA community. So, so I'm looking forward to that and hearing voices that maybe I haven't even heard from before, you know, or really sort of advocating for folks to join the process that we haven't heard from or we don't typically hear from, so that it's really broad reaching, you know, as far as what our priorities could be, should be, and how we can move forward as a college.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the Ed Master Plan. Some of you may say, I hear that word a lot. I don't even know what it is. It is actually an educational overarching plan for 5 years. And when a college has one, they use it as a guiding directive for decisions and for priorities. It can be edited and changed, but if you're here, I really encourage you to get involved in your college's development of their educational master plan, because it really does work. Okay, Denise Richardson, Vice President up at Merit, would you throw in your vice presidential perspective from the instructional side and introduce yourself and give us your #1 priority?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Denise Richardson, and as Inger said, I'm the Vice President of Instruction at Merit College. And it's really a pleasure to be here. And Inger, I'm glad that I'm on your Rolodex, and so happy that you asked me to be part of this roundtable. I want to just share a little bit about my background. I've been in the district now, I think 21 years, which is, you know, a really long time. Inger, I think we came around roughly the same time, but I entered through, I think, one of our more successful programs here at Peralta, the Diversity Internship Program. And I had the tremendous honor working with Don Arnold, who was the political science instructor there. So I taught political science here for about 12 years. And then during the course of my teaching, I decided to get involved. And I want to encourage all of those new faculty out there, get involved, do whatever you can to contribute in a meaningful way outside of the classroom, but, you know, as part of the campus community. So I, you know, began getting involved, I think first with curriculum committee, which is still one of my favorite committees. And then went on to become faculty senate vice president, faculty senate president. And then interestingly, you know, some of my colleagues said, Denise, why don't you try administration? And so I was a dean at Laney College for almost 7 years, dean of math and sciences, and had a wonderful experience there. And for the last 2.5 years, I've been at Merit College as the vice president of instruction, and just so honored and proud to be here. So if I were to identify one of the priorities that I have, and I have to say one because there are many, I'd have to say it's inclusion right now, because we are at a place, as Tina said, with our developing our Ed Master Plan, our Strategic Enrollment Management Plan. We have accreditation going on. We've got a lot going on here at Peralta. And so I say inclusion because it's important that we put all of our best thoughts together. And so as the vice president of instruction, I want to be part of the process that my president has led in terms of really creating a community where everybody feels valued, everyone feels very much a part of what we're doing and provides their ideas about how we can move ourselves forward. So I will just keep it brief with that, and you know, look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you, Inger.
Thank you. Denise, I'm just curious, how was that division when you took it over, the Division of Math and Sciences at Laney College? Was that a well-organized division by any chance, or was it difficult, or?
The division, I thought, functioned really well. We had some really engaged department chairs, and I think that the faculty that I worked with were really campus leaders. So I felt like it worked really well.
You silly. I was trying to say, how about the
trying to get-
person? The person.
What were you trying to get me to
before
say,
you, but they
Inger?
left
For
it in
her
good
intro.
stead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
Did the dean before you leave that division in good,
Yeah,
in
that's
a
what
good
she-
organizational way?
Yeah, that's what she was trying.
Absolutely. Oh, you're trying to get kudos. Yes,
Exactly.
the division was so well put together, and I had amazing mentorship. So yes.
I want to address one quick question in the chat. People, because it was a roundtable, people are requesting that all of the panelists are shown. The reason we didn't do that, and perhaps our interpreters can guide us on this, was because when interpreters are spotlighted and there are fewer panelists shown, it makes it visually a little easier. Jenny and Lisa, do you think we should leave it with fewer people spotlighted, or should we go ahead and spotlight all of the panelists?
This is Jenny. I'm going to answer this, but typically this would be a question request or directed to the deaf participants who are viewing. It's better to have larger, the
Okay.
best practice is to have a larger window if possible.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the participants today want to chime in and say anything, so I'll leave that up to them.
Okay, maybe they could say in the chats if they have a strong preference one way or the other. And not privately to me if they prefer. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And sorry to put you on the spot there, Jenny. Okay, I am going to go next to Brandy Howard. Brandy gave an amazing presentation at a past Flex Day, and if you want to see it, you could go back and find the link on the PD Day. Brandy, would you be willing to introduce yourself and give us one priority that you have for this year?
Hi, thank you, Inger. Good morning. My name is Brandy Howard. I serve as your legal coordinator here at the district office. I originally came to Peralta in 2012, Laney College, as a staff assistant in the president's office under the leadership of or presidency of Dr. Elnora Webb. There, I had the privilege to work with so many, I think most of the individuals here on the panel, I have personal connection with professionally and personally. I was able to, by way of the management faculty support there, I was able to have time to engage in participatory governance and lead as the classified Senate president while at Laney, as well as serve as the PTK advisor while at Laney College. My transition over to the district was smooth because again, management support, faculty support and encouragement, and I cannot say enough about the classified staff that support me professionally and personally here. And because of that, I can say with confidence, I believe that I would highlight and prioritize not only inclusion in strategic planning, but participatory governance, specifically because of the high turnover and leadership and even in support for various reasons. There's a sense that we start over when in actuality, we never start over. It just depends on where an individual is able to pick up, prioritize, and move forward. And I think a well-informed strategic plan where voices are heard, that is documented, that were heard, and it's well noted, that we can pick up from the plan and move forward regardless of the life's changes. Life's changes, that's what happens. I think that Peralta is full of brilliance, and not one person have I worked with. They all come to the table with great intentions. I would just love to see authentic collaboration and an open mind to technology, an open mind to the current student needs, and how maybe I'll use myself, how Brandy needs to show up in 2022 in this same role to provide a new service which appeals to students, which appeals to professionals and makes them want to stay here.
Thank you, Brandy. Yes, you are right. So often classified professionals in particular and faculty also are here for a really long time. And the success of the district in many ways has to be built on the wisdom, experience, and contributions of those people, because things do change a lot at the administrative level. All right, let's see. Donald, we're taking so long. We're doing good. This is really good, but we're taking a long time just even to get rolling because all the hard questions are still to come. Donald, can you introduce yourself for anyone who doesn't know you quickly and give us your one priority as the District Academic Senate President?
Thank you, Inger. Yeah, my name is Donald Sao Tome Moore. I'm an anthropologist over at Laney College, and been here at the district since I think 2007. What I wanted to talk about, I think that over the course of these roughly 5 years or so, the one thing that I know is that we have been progressing, as the Chancellor said. I believe that things are working better and things are continuing to work better. I think that part of the issue is that you know, we've seen the changes, and so you want to see more changes. And I think that part of the difficulty is what I think everybody was speaking about, which is inclusion. I want to kind of expand it a little bit more and talk about it from yesterday at our plenary. We had a focus on what the Senate's talk about in terms of IDEA, right? Inclusion, diversity, right? Equity, and then the two that we've added, other people haven't, which is accessibility and anti-racism. And part of what I really want to see happen at Peralta this year is some really hard dialogue happening at the campuses, whether at the institutional effectiveness, at the college council or roundtable, at just you name it, all of the different structures within this, within the district, within the colleges, to begin having conversations. We have provided, and we will be sending it out to everybody. The state Senate has intensive research papers, rostrum. They have toolkits to look at issues, anything from how do we hire faculty and try to get a more diverse faculty? How do we address the curriculum and begin to critique it and to really, really start to see how we could provide the kind of services, information, and teaching to the kind of diverse faculty that, I mean, students that we have. When I saw that there's a group of students who haven't had a group, the picture that the Dr. J showed of Alameda and the ELP learning community, right? I was like, wow, that is so great. It's being able to touch these students when you have immigrants coming from Yemen, or you have immigrants coming from Mongolia or any of these other places, trying to root them and trying to get them involved and engaged to succeed is what we do best. But part of it is having the tools necessary to engage them. And many of our faculty have involved themselves on equity in terms of online, but how do we permeate throughout the district and all of the things that we do. I think, to me, that is central. Yes, we have to have the Ed Master Plan. Yes, we have to get the accreditation report in. Yes, we have to address any number of different crises. Our faculty are concerned about our FTES, FTF allocations and how do we target it, for the following year. All of those things are important, but until we begin to address those issues, it's going to be difficult. And I don't see necessarily that in these different institutions, if you will, on the college campuses or at the, that's the one I'm highlighting, not to say that other ones aren't as important, Inger, but your work in equity, you know that at Peralta, we talk it, but not all of the places walk it, right? And we really need to have those hard discussions. And I don't know how we do it. I don't know how we engage the entirety of the colleges in this work. I know that Dr. Garcia and BPC, she wants to do things. I know that the other colleges do. I know that faculty leaders want to do, but somehow we haven't really done those effort. I know that within the educational master plan, I am sure that people want to place these in there, but how does it get translated to the work that each one of us, whether they're faculty, staff, administrators, and students, right, engage in that? And so that to me is a challenge that obviously this year we need to begin engaging in, but it's going to be one of those processes that we shouldn't disengage it, that it should be a continuum, a progression of it. So that's the one I'll leave with you today.
Thank you, Donald. Agree. A lot of people in chat are also like, agree. So I want to also point out there are no questions in the Q&A yet. People who are attending, if there's questions you'd like the panelists to answer, you're welcome to put them there and I'll sort of try to bring them in. So our last introduction would be Jennifer Shanoski, who's the PFT president. And Jennifer, in addition to introducing yourself, I'm going to launch with you answering one of the difficult questions I sent to our panelists. There are 3 questions. Let me tell everybody who's here the questions I sent them to think a little bit about. One is, how do we get back to revitalizing face-to-face education and the vibrant campuses? We know many students are going to want to stay online, but for the ones who want to come back to the campuses, how do we make those vibrant and engaging? And so Jennifer, I'm going to have you go to that one. Don't go yet though. And the other 2 questions I'm going to ask the panelists are, one of PCCD's strategic goal is to strengthen accountability, innovation, and collaboration. And what steps can we take to improve our work culture? And I think, Brandy, I'm going to go to you next on that one because your introduction prioritized some relevant things like that. Then the 3rd question will be one of Peralta's strategic goals is to how are we doing in advancing student access, equity, and success? So Jennifer, would you be willing to now introduce yourself, give us your one priority, and address the first of my questions, which is how do we revitalize our face-to-face education and create vibrant campuses again?
I mean, come on, Inger. I like how there was 33 minutes of introductions and now it's like, move on to the questions.
Sorry.
It's okay. My name's Jennifer and I'm president of the Peralta Federation of Teachers. And I think our priority this year really needs to be about planning and budgeting. I really do firmly believe that our planning and budgeting is central to every single thing we do. It is a statement of our values. And I do not think that we are listening to all voices. I do not think we have a robust shared governance program associated with this. And I do not think that we are investing in our students in a meaningful, robust, long-term way. We also are, I'm PFT president, and so our contract is expired. And the budget will touch upon that contract. So see, I can do it in under a minute, Inger. Okay, so the first question now was, how do we get back? I mean, I really do. I said it this morning, and I'll say it again. You know, we need our leadership back. We need our leaders in their offices. We need our leaders walking on the campuses. We need to have in-person meetings. We need, you know, everyone breaking bread together at the start of Flex Day. We need board meetings that are promote democracy and promote many voices coming together in one place. And we really need to allow those spaces to open back up. I understand that we're still in COVID. I mean, we still are in the middle of a pandemic or an epidemic or whatever we want to call it now. And we need to do it safely, and we need to do it thoughtfully, and we need to do it inclusively. But I really think that it's problematic to, you know, do as I say and not as I do. And we need everyone to be coming together to really make that robust, lively campus atmosphere possible. I also think that, you know, we need our campuses to look welcoming. You know, we need to be able to walk on campuses and feel like, you know, this is a place of learning. This is a place that welcomes our students and holds them in a safe, beautiful environment, you know, that promotes learning. Go to any college campus, you know, go to these tours that we take students on all the time, and you see these wonderful places of learning and achievement. And sadly, I don't think all of our campuses promote that, you know, on the surface. We have it in our hearts, but we also need to make sure that that we look that way, right? It matters. So those are the couple of things I think that are really important for me about, you know, returning to an in-person community-based community college. Thanks.
So before I shift to you, Brandy, I'm wondering if either of the vice presidents would like to jump in on that question, since you are leaders on the college campuses. And that question is, how do we revitalize the face-to-face part of our educational programs and vibrant campuses? Do either of you want to jump in?
Sure, now that I've gotten the mute button off. Absolutely. I think one of the things that we absolutely have to do is we have to offer the classes. We have to offer in-person classes, and we have to commit to keeping them in the schedule, particularly whatever core group that's decided upon between deans and faculty. So that's, you know, that's the first thing. We also have to find other reasons for students to want to be on campus. It can't be just about school. We have to cultivate a sense of belonging among our students so that they feel welcome, so that they feel like it is truly their campus. And that would include, you know, engaging in activities that draw them in and that let them know that they're valuable members of the community. Some of the other things that we can do for students is to make sure that we feature and highlight the programs, particularly the ones that we're offering in person, in a more, we have to do better with advertising across the board. I mean, I think that some of our colleges have done a great job, particularly this semester, in terms of promoting what we're doing in terms of enrollment and getting students here. But we really have to get out into the community, the quality programs that we have in place. I'm old school. I believe that we need to, as administrators, as faculty and staff, we need to get together and get out into community, attend community events, and really make our presence known and highlight in those spaces, you know, what we're offering students. High flex classes, I think, create a wonderful opportunity for us to meet the needs of both for students who prefer in-person and distance learning. So I think that if faculty are in support of that, and if we get that going, that can be a really good thing to do as well. There are a number of things, but I don't want to take up all the time. So I don't know if Tina wants to share some things as well.
Sure, I can add a little bit to that. So basically what Denise said, and one of the thoughts that comes to mind for me is how do we do more cross-sectional or intersectional programming on campus, you know, so that we're really reaching across. So instructional faculty are partnering with student services, faculty and classified professionals and administrators, obviously across, but how do we sort of create more interesting speaker panels, you know, and speaker series that are highlighting our faculty, for instance, who have a lot of expertise and do a lot of really creative and amazing things in our communities, but we don't necessarily sell that. Sorry, allergies. We don't necessarily sell that to our external community, right? And oftentimes I think that if we were to do more events like that, sorry, and perhaps record them, put them on their websites, you know, it's a sort of a way to sort of sprinkle that throughout the entire year and sort of ongoing, that, hey, this is something that I'm really interested in. That's exciting. You know, I went to a speaker series and Inger Stark was there and she had this amazing work that she was working on in the community. And I want to be part of that. Right. And so I think that those are some of the things that come to mind, is how do we really pull together? And I feel like this whole sort of the theme right now is inclusivity, right? And so, but that's really what comes to mind too, even in this manner.
Those are really great comments. And it is a bit of a conundrum because it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Students are required to make the campus vital, vibrant, and you know, a welcoming place. And yet we kind of can't get students there if we don't have food and activities and faculty and students and administrators welcoming them. And it's a conundrum. It's a bit of a conundrum. So let's shift a little bit. Again, I see 2 questions in the Q&A. I'm not ignoring them. I see them, but I'm kind of trying to weave them in. Let's shift to work culture. And Brandy, would you be willing to be the first person to speak to work culture, which is one of our strategic goals is to strengthen a crowd. We, meaning the Peralta board, has set strategic goals for the district. And one of them is to strengthen accountability, innovation, and collaboration. And so what steps can we take to improve our work culture so that we're the best version of ourselves as Peralta Community College District?
Thank you, Inger. Thanks for the question. I'll respond. One of my colleagues here, Tashetta Henry, who also serves on our PGC, says it perfectly. So I'll share some words that she shared with me. It says, in order to strengthen accountability and innovation in the innovation component of the Peralta strategic goals, we must first address how collaboration can be strengthened. There are misconceptions that have caused faculty, management, and classified to misinterpret and misunderstand the purpose, function, and importance that each group contributes toward each college's mission, core values, and the overall functionality of our institutions whose commitment and priority is serving students. She goes on in further detail about how we misinterpret the importance of each group's function, and that causes further breakdown in inclusion and taking opportunity to engage throughout the organizational structure. It causes silos. And so getting beyond that, understanding what we all contribute as senates, as professional individuals, some of us that have served even longer than administrators in most cases, relying on that intelligence, that experience, that wisdom that classified bring to the table. And thanks to, I'm going to say this, thanks to the leadership of Chancellor Jackson, I'm now referring to Tashetta Henry as a tri-chair of PGC. That's a big plus. That's a major move. And so I'm there. I have the privilege of sitting at the Senate tables. I see the effort. And to everyone's point, how do we bring those ideas to fruition? And it's going to take some work, because whether we want to admit it or not, we're all cleaning up the past, we're in the present, and we're planning for the future. And that is challenging. But I know that if we have those tough discussions, if we talk about the pay increases, even in the midst of low enrollment, how is that going to happen? And when we have those tough discussions, that we can get through this together. But it's going to be hard, and not sugarcoat it and always say, oh, this is going to be all right. No, it's not going to be all right if we don't make these sacrifices right now. So we're going to struggle together to provide the level of service that we need to see our community, real community engagement, internal and external, our community, our, you can't say homeless anymore, what the unhoused, to see the unhoused enroll in school, take classes, have that pivotal moment that I experienced in the classroom. I took classes with Dr. Cherry, Dr. Flannery, so many professors here that I began to see even my own importance differently. That happens in the classroom, all due respect. And the work that we do in the operations, how do we support as classified? How do we feel supported? I've seen many classified come up in the ranks through participatory governance, once with staff support like myself, and now serve in administrative capacities, excuse me. And so again, true engagement and inclusion, I just defer back to that. And thank you to Shetta so much for sharing your viewpoints.
Thank you, Brandy. I think in a minute, I'm going to put you on the spot, Dr. Droker. And even though you're new to our district, I'd love you to talk about you're new, but how can we be the best version in terms of our work culture? But before I do that, a lot of people are struggling to see who's pinned and unpinned. Mark has just made me a co-host, so I'm going to try to do better by pinning the people who are talking. The interpreters will stay spotlighted and always be visible. I will, and I'll try to do a better job of spotlighting the person who's speaking. So I apologize for that. Okay, Dr. Droker, you're new around here, but you've worked in lots of different places. You come from the ranks of faculty. Tell us how we can improve our work culture.
So I was listening to the DAS, the District Academic Senate plenary yesterday, and I saw one of these comments in the Q&A earlier today. So I'm going to focus on the faculty perspective for just a moment. I'm not trying to exclude classified professionals, but something was said yesterday that I think is it needs to be addressed, and that is, when we talk about relied primarily upon, when we talk about the 10+1 and those academic affair issues. From what I've heard, there's different ideas of what relied primarily upon means. And so I think one of the ways we can improve our culture is for us to have some understanding together of what relied primarily upon means to us as Peralta, not as any other district, because other district cultures are different. And so what does it mean here? And how do we come to that? Sometimes the district the administration might say, well, we are relying primarily upon. And the faculty might say, no, you're not, because here's what we're suggesting, it's not being taken. So how do we define that? I think the other part of our culture, it's really interesting, at least as someone who's newer coming into this, is we do have a very confusing shared governance process. I'm not exactly sure what PGC and PBC do, and I'm not exactly sure what the difference is. And so I think we also have a real job ahead of us with the PBIM retreat to determine how do decisions get made here? I'm really confused by that. So, and if there's confusion, then and we don't know what the committee is supposed to be about, or when we talk about an agenda, there's process agendas, there's practice agendas, there's venting agendas, there's lots of different agendas. And so when we have an agenda item, what is it that we're trying to do? Are we solving a problem? Are we discussing a problem? Are we investigating a problem? We need to have definitions of that we collectively understand what we're trying to do together. And I think that communication, if it doesn't happen, then yeah, I think there's a lot of frustration. So I would hope that some of these things that we're looking at together, that we kind of have to get back to basics and frame what it is that we're trying to do.
Okay, I second that. Both the shared governance, the participatory or shared governance of the district is a complete mystery and a labyrinth of confusion to many. And so thank you. And I hope, Dr. Drucker, you might be able to help guide us in the direction of streamlining that and making it transparent and visible so people who want to engage know how that works, and so that people can understand the relationship between decisions made at the college and how they come to the district office and become part of the decision-making at the district office. That is also very confusing.
Yeah, and I do think it's a district issue from what I've seen, and I'll of course open this up, and I might be wrong on this, but from my understanding of the colleges seem to have a pretty sound structures that people feel very satisfied with. It seems, you may not always agree with the decision that finally got determined, but at least you understand how it moved through the process and the decision got made. And it sounds like they're even getting communicated back. So closing that loop. The district is a whole different thing. And so I hope that that's something that we will work on. And yes, I think there is a PBIM. Donald, am I right? Is it on the 16th? Yeah. So I'm hoping that we're gonna look at that this year.
Thank you. Maybe in January at the district-wide Flex Day, Dr. Drucker, we could have a session called "How Things Work," right? And you just start with a flow chart and do that.
Yeah, I'd love to see that, and I don't know if I could lead it. I might benefit from listening to that session.
Before I move on to the next question, and Donald, you're going to be next, and I'm going to ask you one of the hard ones about advanced student access, equity, and success, and how you feel like you're doing and what we need to do differently. But before we go there, Tina and Denise, do either of you as leaders on the campuses want to talk about that relationship between the colleges and the district in terms of governance and decision-making? You don't have to, but I just wondered if there was anything you wanted to add.
Well, it's interesting. We were just talking about this yesterday as we were reviewing our participatory governance list of our, COA community members assigned to the different committees. And what comes up for me, I heard Stephanie say that the colleges do a great job or a good job. And I don't know that that's true. I still feel like, when we have the facilities committee, it doesn't necessarily always flow to the college council and then back to the facilities committee again, if that makes sense. I think there's always intention, right? But I still feel like there's it's a web to me is sort of how I see that process. It's hierarchical, but it also needs to be a web so that it's flowing through and around as far as communication. We all know communication is really hard, and to make it sort of really concrete and robust and inclusive so that everybody is included in that process. But I think that our colleges could do a better job, and the other thing too, sort of, earlier around Tashetta's and Brandy's comments, one of the things to improve this is really training folks in the participatory governance structure. If I'm coming, say, if I'm a classified professional, I'm coming and joining a committee, what is my role? What is my voice? And what is the importance of my voice? And then how do I then take that back to, say, either another committee or to the Senate, for instance? How do I take that back to the classified Senate at the college and get input from those folks so that then I can represent them as a group, versus just my seat in the college? And this isn't about classified professionals at all, but I think that oftentimes, given we are in a hierarchical structure and given faculty and the rely upon primarily, I'm always trying to figure out how do we branch that out further to include classified professionals. That I've done that for years, but there's a training piece for that too. And then the other thing is we always want students involved. Same training has to happen. Why is this important? What's the charge of this committee? What does it mean? So that they can then go back to their, to the students as a whole, or even to the Senate, and have that discussion, and then being able to come back in a way that they feel like they're going to be heard and not silenced. So it's a huge topic, really. It's hard to get it right.
It is.
I'd like
Denise, did
to-
you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on the training piece. I think the training is so critical. I'm very fortunate and blessed to work with Tashetta every day. And one of the things that we were talking about yesterday was the fact that, she shared with me, Denise, I think it would be so amazing if I had a better sense of what faculty do, and if faculty had a better sense of what we as classified professionals do. And so we have to create spaces for that to actually happen. I think it would be a great idea for us to reinstitute something that happened some years ago, which was having an actual professional development academy internally, where people learn about the different roles that exist in the campus, and you have presentations by people in those roles. So we do have a better sense of what we're all doing. So I think the training piece is really important. And also building pathways for succession. I mean, it makes no sense for us to bring people from the outside in who have to learn our system and our processes when we have people right here who can be trained to move into to other roles of responsibility. So I think that would be a really good focus for us moving forward. On a basic level, in terms of communication, I think, because there has been a lot of turnover in our district, that's absolutely true. It's very difficult for us to collaborate district-wide because I don't even know who's at, the other colleges. So I think if we worked on doing a better job of even putting together current directories, so we know how to reach out to one another and create opportunities for collaboration. One of the things that I always appreciate when I get an email is that someone tells me their name, their role, their phone number, that includes all of their contact information. This is a time and an opportunity for us to really collaborate as a district to move ourselves forward, to move ourselves off warning in terms of accreditation, to move ourselves into a place where we can be really competitive as a district and really fulfill our purpose as a district, because I think that we have some tremendously important and valuable programs for our students. So that's what I'd like to see happen.
Thank you. And I will say it is, for anyone who's ever studied organizational development, it is a conundrum in a large organization to figure out how do you invite, hear, and honor all the different perspectives and voices in decision-making, and also have that process be functional and, be able to respond relatively quickly. It's like really hard to do both, and yet both are really, really important, right? Yeah. Okay, let's switch a little bit. Donald, would you be willing to jump in and talk a little bit about the question about advanced student access, equity, and success? And in your opinion, from where you sit, both as a faculty member and on the president of the district level Senate, how are we doing? And what do we need to do differently?
Inger, as you know, back maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there was a question about if students are online, they do more horribly than students face-to-face. This was pre-pandemic, right? And part of the response to that was really trying to address equity online. And I know you were intimately involved with that whole effort. And as we look at it, the variation between the two aren't that, on average for the district, isn't that large. I mean, it could always be improved, but it's not that large, if you understand where I'm coming from on this, okay? But part of the difficulty has been, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face, and this goes directly to what Dr. Droker was saying in her opening remarks, and certainly Jennifer has commented on this. How do we change the needle in terms of student success, right? When you look at the stats from the research office, you really see that for a number of different areas that we teach, the success rate isn't as high as it should be. It's relatively low. There aren't that many departments or sections that have, let's say, 95 or 98% success rates, right? And we know this, whether you talk about it from fall to fall, or you talk about it from one semester to the next semester, okay? And part of the difficulty with this is that every time the state puts more stuff for us to do as faculty, and when you reduce the number of faculty, and this is where I'm going to be talking about reducing our FTF, right? Some smaller departments have much more difficult time of doing all of the different things that are required, right? And certainly you also don't want to overburden your part-time faculty with them, but they help in trying to contribute to the whole, okay? Now that you have reduced this, the problem then becomes that you have to do all of these things while you're also trying to increase the number of people in your class, 35, 40. Dean gives you a clap on the back, says, whoa, Donald, I just saw, I was looking, your class is now at 40, you know? And I'm going like, oh God, how am I going to address it? Because we're saying, hey, we don't want to give, 200 multiple choice questions because that doesn't work, right? So you break it up, but then you have to do more in that breakup. Is everybody understanding? And so part of what we have been saying is, yeah, when you send your kid to kindergarten and you want your kindergarten class to have a small number of students so the teacher could go around and help all of those students, does it really make sense that you want to have 40, 50, 60 students in a classroom with one faculty member? When, I'm saying what we're moving to, whether online or in classroom, face-to-face classrooms, you're trying to break up these things into smaller chunks, and you're grading more, you're doing more, you're engaging with your students more, right? All to try to move that needle in terms of student success. And so part of this concern that I have, and this is where the rub happens, is this notion of FTF and FTES, right? Okay. If you look, and please go to Lo Bennett's presentation today, you see the correlation of FTF and FTES. I mean, it's literally like that. The only difference has been in the last 2 years where it has basically leveled off a little bit in terms of FTF allocation. But the trajectory of our FTES is this. You could just do a plot line and you'll see 2025, 2026, where it's going. The problem, of course, is that we're getting close to 10,000 FTES. Folks, we were at 19,900 FTES, right? 5 years ago, okay? If you start dropping down lower and lower and lower, they're in a binary. Inger, as a sociologist, knows what I'm talking about. It's like this twisted process that somehow we can't get out of because it just continues to spiral down. The only thing that ultimately checks those two parallels, and I can't do my hands the same way, right? But those two parallels going down, there has to be a major disruption to it. I mean, just talk to anybody who does statistics, they'll tell you there needs to be a major disruption of that. The problem is in education, there isn't major disruptions. Not major disruptions. Does everybody get this? It's not major disruptions. And so we will disrupt it, and people are coming up with things free, right? I was telling somebody, even if you gave students $10,000 today, gave students $10,000 to come to school, right? Our needle is going to change just that much more, right? And CM, our consultant, who's been our resource allocation consultant who's been doing a terrific job and is now working with all of the different colleges, and more information will come out. He just said simply, Donald, it took you how many years to get where you are? How many years do you think it's going to take to go the other way? So when you start to think of that and you say, we haven't stopped, but yet we know it's going to take years, 5 years or more to go the other way. Is everybody following this? At what point do you say, can we go to 7,000 FTES, 5,000 FTS? Everybody think about this, right? What everybody's hoping for, and that there's no planning around, right? Inger, this is the crux. There's no planning around the fact that everybody, the chancellor is saying today that it looks like we're going into a recession. Well, we all the time hope, probably as administrators, yeah, I hope we go into recession because we really need those students to come in, right? The whole thing is that if you're in a recession, more students come because they need to get retrained, okay? The point about it, though, is that on a dime, if in the spring we have an influx of students, it's not going to be a big influx, but let's say a couple of thousand students, right? Are we prepared to increase the number of classes, right? I have administrators come to me like a week into the semester and says, hey, Donald, looks like you have a lot of students in your lab classes, right? We shouldn't have it, by the way, but we have 40 students in lab. Should we do another class? I have some money, I cancel the class, right? And I'm going, Dean, with all respect, I can't get somebody immediately to go and fill that, right? And have them at a disadvantage a weekend, right? Even if it's a late start class. And it becomes just this vicious cycle of chasing enrollment. So the point I'm trying to make with this is, if we want to address issues around student success, we need to look holistically at this issue. And it can't be done piecemeal. And we really need to address it in some way that is coherent. And the reason I'm saying this is because people out of hand just look at the work that our faculty have been doing around FTES and FTF and just short shift it like, oh, it's nothing, right? But yet we're also engaged in this. We haven't reached productivity since the recession. we haven't gotten it since the recession. So the point I'm trying to make is that we are living in a certain reality. So let's have a good dialogue about what it is we do and how do we do it. And even acknowledge the fact that, yes, we understand we haven't reached productivity, right? But we're feeling pressure from FITMAT and from the state chancellor's office. Well, fine, talk about that and say, we don't want to be the exception in the 114 colleges faculty. We don't want to say, well, we can't reach productivity 17.5. Let's just, try to get 15.
Donald, let me interrupt you a little bit because we're running up against our time deadline. And I know you leap, you're tangential, you leap from one to the next, and each one is really important. I also just wanted to highlight, and Jennifer, your hand's up, and I know you're going to want to go next, but one of the things Donald started with was modest class sizes, right? How do you, there was one semester when I was teaching sociology when I had 270 students in 5 classes, and it was, how do you grade papers? 275 students, right? So, so I just wanted to highlight, because you wandered through a lot of really important things. You brought us back to that chicken and the egg thing, right? How do we stop the downward spiral? Have students. So anyway, all right, Jennifer, would you like to, I'm 99% sure you're dying to jump in here and also address that question.
Thanks, Inger. You know me so well. I really think that Donald hit some really important points. We are being funded at a level of students that's much higher than the number of students we're serving. And in the future, we have to really think about how to increase our enrollment so that the funding after Hold Harmless, has this off ramp, so that we can increase our funding then. The way we do that is by offering students the best possible educational experience that they can get. Students leave to go to DVC. They leave to go to Chabot. They leave to go to Contra Costa. And they do this for a variety of reasons, right? So I really think the disruption has happened. You know, COVID-19 disrupted all of our lives. We have the opportunity of a huge amount of money in front of us that we can use to plan well. I think that the free tuition programs, that's great. I love it. I think college should be free. We are a public good. We are a publicly funded entity for the public good. It should be free for everyone all the time. But I feel like it's not enough. It just offering somebody, like Donald said, just offering somebody free tuition this year isn't enough. If they're in a classroom of 55 students, which is what I routinely teach in introductory chemistry classes, it's not enough if we don't offer the one-on-one supports to students, if we don't have hotspots to loan out to our students so that they can, you know, come into their DE courses, if we're not doing all the things, you know, that we could be doing to make sure that, yeah, we pull them in the door with free tuition this year, and then next year they say, I want to come back because my teacher was excellent, my experience was supportive, and I know that I'll be successful in the next thing that I'm going to do. And part of that is paying our faculty and staff a fair wage. I literally we'd lost a full-time chemistry faculty member at Merritt College 2 weeks ago because going to another district gave him an instantaneous raise of almost $40,000 a year. In the Bay 10, we are the lowest paid faculty in the state of California, not just the Bay Area, the entire state. And our classified staff are also some of the lowest paid. And if we want good people to support our students, we have to invest in our workforce, and not just those at the highest level, which our recent analysis showed us are some of the highest paid in the area. So let's be honest, let's be transparent, let's have robust conversations, but let's make sure that they're backed up by data, and that they're backed up by data that we can all agree is actual data, right? Grounded in reality. That's it. I'll end there. Thanks, Inger.
Okay, we've got a little bit of time left. Dr. Droker, your hand went up. Would you like to follow that or?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of other things that we could be doing at the district level that would help with enrollment. And one of them we're starting to work on. We're not there yet, but auto award of degrees. And Leslie Blackley mentioned that we need to be chasing successes and completion, not just butts and seats. And that's right. The new SCIF funding is going to require us to raise completions, certificates, and degrees. So really getting auto award in place so that I never understood why our students have to apply to have to go through all these hoops to earn their degree or certificate. We should be helping them do that. So that's one that I think will really help with our completions. And I think the other one is that we need to really look at, and I haven't figured out a way to do it yet. I don't know what kind of technology we're going to have, but really connecting ed plans to scheduling so that when we do have classes where students need, that might be those 6 or 7 or 8 students, but at least we'll know how many they are and how we schedule it, and looking at scheduling not just by college, but district wide, so we can leverage our faculty and our staff and our students to make sure they have what they need.
Okay, Dr. Droker, everybody on the panel was shaking their heads as you were making those last 2 points. There's unanimous agreement that both the auto award, but also kind of an enrollment management that is tied to what students are actually trying to take to complete the things they want to complete. Everybody's shaking their head yes on that one. We have a little more time. I'm inclined to, Brandy, I saw you making notes and stuff and you were in the chat. I'm wondering if you'd like to jump in comment on any of this stuff.
No, I don't necessarily need to comment. I'm actually learning a lot about the different perspectives. And so that is for me more than enough. It gives me time to go back and meet with my colleagues. But I just have general questions because I would like some answers to when we say Peralta, where we are as far as the pay scale, has it always been like that? And can we honestly say collectively, no matter when you came on board or off board, have we done consistently the collective work that needed to be done to ensure that? And I don't think it's just a Peralta thing. Maybe it's a California district-wide thing. I've had the opportunity to serve at the RP group and coach different classified students at different colleges, and every college has something. But can we honestly say that we've consistently delivered over the years to say that we would never have or shouldn't be in this position right now? It's just my general thought.
Yeah, do you want to try to answer your own question?
No, because it's a real question. It's a real question. And I don't know if it's an accountability thing. I know that we all, like I said, we're all brilliant. We all will never get paid for what we believe our worth is, but collectively, just Peralta collectively, what's the honest conversation to say, have we really assessing how we show up, how we deliver collectively? Does this seem like we would have ended up here at this point? And what do we do to move forward?
Well, you all have said so far in this panel, we need to improve our shared governance structures, both at the district, and Tina pointed out the colleges can even tune up their own. We need to figure out how both of those processes of decision-making include are both efficient and decisions move along and get made and recommendations efficiently, but also that process is set up so that all voices can be heard. Brandy, as you said, student voices and classified professional voices and faculty voices and administrative voices. So one thing is really to improve. A takeaway to me seems to be we've got this year to focus on that. Another is, and the devil's in the details, we have to have smaller classrooms. We have to have student experiences that make them want to come back again. That might mean food on campus so they can eat between classes. It might mean, being able to choose get the classes they want so that they tick the boxes to complete what they're supposed to, they are here to complete. So we've got the shared governance coming out of this. We've got the ed plan, the auto award of degrees and certificates, enrollment management. I mean, nobody actually said that, but Dr. Drokwood, some of what you were talking about is really the big picture, improving enrollment management for what students need, not for what department chairs and faculty are saying, but literally there's data that says, hey, sociology at Laney, sorry, Inger, you want to teach that class, but nobody needs that right now, right? What we really need to be offered, what our students need to be offered are these sociology classes. And we have data to prove that. And we have data to say students want these face-to-face, so they want them online or they want them hybrid. Face-to-face, they prefer at night to the day. Like, we really need to know what students want to get across their finish lines. And we need to improve our work culture. We need to improve how we feel as employees when we come to work every day, that we feel safe, that we have the resources that we need, that we are heard, that we have a climate where we can disagree and disagree respectfully. Brandy, I know you and I were talking about this the other day, that Peralta seems to have a culture where disagreeing isn't always done productively and respectfully. Sometimes it shouldn't be done that way. There are times when, blowing things up is necessary, but how do we add a lot of voices and hear a lot of perspectives? So that's me going off. We're supposed to wrap up about now before noon. I'm wondering if each of the panelists was able to speak a couple of times. As we roll towards finishing, I'm wondering if there's any final points that any of you would like to make. Go, Brandy, you're spotlighted.
Very quickly, Hope Lane from Laney College, one of our classified representatives, mentioned the condition of our facilities and safety being at the top of the list for returning back to campus. I know that because I'm here at the district, there are ongoing meetings and plannings and assessment of how the dollars are managed. So the effort is definitely there. And yeah, I just wanted to share that concern from Hope Lane.
Yeah, that's facilities is, I will be interested to listen to the recorded presentation that happened just before this session from Vice Chancellor Etheria about the 5-year facilities plan. Because my home campus is Laney and because I think Laney most needs a facilities facelift, I'm going to be looking in that to see what can be done. I walked across the Laney campus the other day for the first time in about 6 or 8 weeks, and I just felt so sad because I thought if I was a student, it would be really, I'd go because the teachers are great, but it would be hard to feel welcome and joyful and engaged going there. So anybody else? Thank you, Brandy. Anybody else want to make a final comment before we wrap this up? Nobody's jumping in. All right. So I really want to thank all of the panelists. Again, to the 2 vice presidents who are willing to jump in at the end. And I said that I texted them because they were in my phone, but obviously I asked them to be it because I really respect their wisdom and knowledge. Just because they were in my phone is not the only reason I asked them. They're both amazing vice presidents. And so I wanted to kind of correct the record there. And I wanted to thank and Dr. Droker to really welcome you again to the district. You've been here a while, but you're still kind of the new kid on the block. I look forward to having a drink with you this evening. I'm excited that we've had 180 people here today, that they've been able to get to know you a little bit. Jennifer, as always, you're amazing and insightful and data-based and lead our faculty, and thank you. And Brandy, you're amazing. Thank you. And I'd really like to wrap you in January for another one of your sort of uplifting presentations during PD. And Donald, of course, thank you as our District Academic Senate President and always a champion of willing to listen and stay connected and just keep trying. So with that, I guess we're going to close this up. I wanted to again say that there's lots of really exciting stuff happening this afternoon. There's 3 interesting sessions at noon. If you have any questions, you can email me about the day. And please, if you have the time and are inclined and feel safe enough to join a group outside at the Mad Oak this evening, come for that. So thank you, everyone.